Hello everyone, my name is Debora and I will present the paper Growing Together, Remaining Apart, the Role of Digital Technology in Former Guerrillas Fighters' Social Capital. The paper was written with my friends Max, Pedro, David and Volker, and also with former guerrillas who became friends, Amparo and Carlos. The main contribution of the paper is to present an account of how FARC ex-combatants are using digital technology in the process of reincorporation into Colombian society. It adds to the discourse on the role of technology in the post-conflict period. I will start with a little bit of history. During the 10 years of civil war in Colombia, in 1964, small farmers organized themselves in armed groups to defend the ownership of their land from private settlers. Surviving combatants founded the guerrilla group FARC and became target of the Colombian army and paramilitary groups. FARC found protection in very remote areas like the jungles and mountains. During the conflict, FARC had around 21,000 members and they were distributed across the country. They managed to coordinate the organization with limited access to communication technology for more than 50 years. We talked to more than 50 ex-combatants, and many of them described their former life as organized in a very collective sense. One ex-combatant said, quote, "We would see each other every day and we would talk. I would wake up, see them and say, 'Good morning, neighbor,'" end of quote. Another ex-combatant said, quote, "Before, people would cook together and freely share food. People would arrive, indigenous or black, any human being would be received with food, water, and place to sleep," end of quote. The camp in this picture is located in one of the areas that was controlled by FARC until end of 2016. In that year, the final peace agreement was signed. FARC members delivered their weapons to a UN mission and began the reincorporation into civilian life, moving to 26 areas across the whole country called now as populated center. The objectives of those areas were to create conditions for ex-combatants to lay down their guns and to prepare them for the transition to civilian life through training and capacity building offered by the government. This space is remotely located and had around 400 inhabitants when I visited in 2018. With the government support, they were able to construct their homes, a meeting hall, classrooms, greenhouses, and plantations as infrastructure for the community. This occurred while all the elements of basic infrastructures were missing. The next electricity line is 5 kilometers away, so the camp relies on electricity from diesel generator. As a result, the community is frequently without electricity, running water, or ways to properly store food. When they moved to the space, end of 2016, the access of any communication was difficult. In January 2018, during my first visit, access to internet and GSM was still hard, but still, most of them had already a smartphone. Here you can see a post built to hold a cell phone that tried to reach the cell phone coverage. In August 2018, 7 months after my first visit, many houses had already antennas to receive the radio signal from a private internet service provider. So now that you have a somewhat idea of the transitional process, I will talk about our findings. In this paper, we investigate the intersection between the use of digital tools and the development of cultural and economic practice among these groups during this transitional period, from being a Marxist guerrilla army to members of a Colombian and capitalist civil society. We use the concept of social capital, reflecting on the bonding and bridging aspects of it. A crucial component of the transitory experience of former guerrilla is the development of new economic means and practices in radically different conditions. To develop a new economic life, the inhabitants of this space explore agricultural production techniques, growing crops, fish farming, and raising and maintaining livestock. A national Colombian cooperative called ex-combatants is coordinating and supporting the co-op's efforts. An important communication channel is a shared WhatsApp group organized by ex-combatants, where members of cooperatives support each other in their search for strategic partners and generally exchanging knowledge and expertise. Non-agricultural work is also organized in a cooperative manner. This is the Women's Cooperative. They run a market, a school, a restaurant, and a daycare center for kids. The women of the space organize themselves as the family dynamic changed dramatically with the peace agreement. There was a baby boom in the spaces, and during our visit, we counted at least 24 babies. Some of the relatives of ex-combatants also moved into the camp. An ex-combatant told us, quote, "The women in the camp had never lived in a society with kids and had no experience of motherhood, so they were afraid of being alone in the child raising." This is the president of Women's Co-op. She was really active on the computer where she makes the orders and on the smartphone where she talks to the suppliers about the logistics of the products that she sells in the co-op's market. Individual strategies also come into play. A female ex-combatant was a tailor for the guerrilla army, making uniforms for FARC. Now she works alone with 2 sewing machines that she invested. Laughing, she told us, quote, "I learned everything from Dr. YouTube. Do you know him? Sometimes I also use Dr. Google," end of quote. In addition to her sewing machine, she also offers copying services. An ex-combatants couple has a restaurant and a hotel with 6 rooms in the same construction style as before the peace agreement. Very simple and made of wood and canvas waterproofing. This was my room during my weeks of visits. And in that place, they also sell internet access by handing out the one Wi-Fi password to clients. They also rent out the TV in their house to young inhabitants to play video games. With the peace agreement, the ex-combatants' experience of having a family and their relation to their own family have changed. FARC members did not have strong ties to their own family. With the army, some fighters lived in romantic partnership but were not able to start families, neither allowed to have children. However, some ex-combatants carried out the complete pregnancy and gave their children to friends and family members outside of FARC. A female guerrilla we met in the camp had a child in 1984. As it was too dangerous to keep her son in the group, she gave him to another family at the age of 19 months. After the peace agreement in 2016, she wanted to meet him, but the family who had adopted her son had changed their names, making it difficult to find him. She first tried Facebook and then hired a lawyer for 1 year to finally find her son, and they are still in contact nowadays. Another ex-combatant told me that he had no contact with his family for 20 years, so he used the first money he received after the peace agreement to buy a smartphone to contact his family. He installed Facebook, registered a fake profile, and found his mother, but he did not ask to be her friend. He asked a friend to contact her by phone, travel to the place where she lived, and in person tell her and the family that he was alive and willing to meet again. So in the paper, you can find many more stories about the FARC ex-combatants transition and how digital technology has become essential to support aspects of FARC ex-combatants' social capital. While in many ways, the former combatants seek an increasing closeness to the rest of Colombian society, such as when reconnecting to friends and family outside the guerrilla army, in many other activities, they show a need to remain apart and within the social group in the camp, such as when forming co-ops, thereby maintaining their social capital as the foundation on which to build their post-conflict life. However, in light of ongoing violence they face, it remains to be seen if such pluralistic vision can be realized. Since the peace agreement, more than 250 members of FARC and more than 1,000 social leaders have been killed in Colombia, and it is unclear who the criminals are, but it shows that peace is still missing for some. I would like to state that this study would not have been possible without the openness of the ex-combatants of FARC. Thank you so much.